Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel. But also, we got the coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Rotan, also Belton. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, multiple stints there on the coaching staff, but also was on the staff at University of Texas for multiple head coaches. And now you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's our coach, Coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
I'm on a high, and I'm waiting for another Saturday, baby. I'm just riding the high.
I got to tell you, I'm with you, Coach. CJ, how you feeling? Because Longhorns, #1 in the land, undefeated, first time since 2009. It's a strange – and not only that, just dominant performances by the Longhorns so far. A lot of people are starting to come to the conclusion that this might be right now, Texas is the most dominant team in college football. Like, that's something people are discussing right now.
It's close, right? You know, it was for the second straight week. It wasn't a pretty game, but you come away with a 30-point win over an arch rival and a conference opponent. You got to imagine that this is a pretty complete team right now. So, yeah, it's 420 somewhere. You might as well watch it a fourth and a fifth and a sixth time because it's going to be just as fun each time.
Oh, CB, birthday gift. Hey, happy birthday, CB. Hey, happy B-Day, no doubt about it. It's your B-Day. We appreciate you, man, no doubt. Appreciate all you out there for joining us. Yes, no matter what time it is. What is it? Yep, 6:19 in Brisbane, Australia. OU still sucks. Thank you, JJ. It is 3:20 here, and OU still sucks. And, yeah, we can still throw out the OU jokes because we're not officially moving on. We'll review the Texas-OU game today and then start moving on to the big foe that Texas has ahead of them, which is the Georgia Bulldogs, a top 5 matchup. But, yeah, still got a coach. We still need to enjoy this win over Oklahoma for one more day. At least Longhorn fans. The team, but the fans,
that's what's cool about being a fan.
Yeah, you can still
we don't have to be focused until Saturday. I guarantee you, Sark's already got the partying out of them, and they're working their tails off. But that's what's great about being a fan.
Man,
we can just relish it and listen to them. I don't understand how you can get beat like that and say they didn't earn it.
No,
but the only thing about the game, was that we had that slow first. Did beat them. It sure did, Alan. Yeah, I don't have them anymore. Thank goodness, man. That was a bad deal. I was on. I think it was Coffee and Football. I can't remember last week. I had the dang hiccups
for like a couple of days. You had them for like
I had them for like 4 days. Yeah,
that's
4
crazy.
days.
Yeah,
yeah, and you know what? Did
that's
it?
That's no fun at all.
The soda water.
Yep, I'm telling you, carbonated drinks. The carbonation is something about them. It's weird.
Topo Chico. I was chugging Topo Chico. I'm not going to say what was in it. Maybe I just don't remember them going away. I'm teasing. It was straight Topo Chico.
No.
And it worked.
No, I'm telling you. Because you tried everything, right, Coach? You tried everything. Yeah, I'm telling you. You chug carbonation. Sometimes I prefer, my beer of choice, but you can go with a Coke or something like that. You chug it. You usually will get rid of if you had them for like a day or so, if you've had them for that long, which is what Coach had. But all right, so we'll get to anything you guys want to talk about. Of course, questions, comments, whatever they are. We'll discuss the Texas OU game. My man CJ's gonna give us some nuggets about recruiting because this is actually the biggest recruiting weekend of the season. Correct, CJ, coming up for the Longhorns?
Yeah, absolutely. Our Jared Hamilton has put up about 45 or 50 names of 4-star and 5-star guys ranging from the 2025 to 2026 classes and beyond. So it's going to be a huge weekend in Austin for recruiting. Of course, a big opportunity for Texas to go out there, prove once again that they're the #1 team, but then to look and build upon their success right now in 2024 with some of these recruits coming in. That list is getting longer and longer and longer at the moment.
It's unbelievable. All right, so we'll get CJ's thoughts about that and get into some of the details about that big recruiting weekend. Of course, we'll talk about last weekend, the Longhorns pulling off an Old Testament-style butt whipping on the Oklahoma Sooners. We got lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee that's going to join us at one point as well. So whenever Stevie Lee comes in, we'll just stop the show, interrupt the show, and get right to my man Stevie Lee, courtesy of our good friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. But first, gentlemen, now with, you've had 2 days to process Texas' big win over Oklahoma. What did we learn? Anything we learned? Anything you want to point out? Anything now after watching the game? Maybe once. I saw somebody say they've watched that game now 3 times. I've watched it twice. I might go back and watch it again, or I might just start moving on to Georgia. I don't know if it's worth watching again. But Coach, I'll throw it to you first. Anything that you want to get off your chest about watching that game that you have not gotten a chance to say yet?
Well, it's probably the worst game Quinn has played in 2 years, and we still won easily. And, the first quarter was just I really hurt for him. In fact, when you and I were doing Watch With Us and we were talking at halftime, Rod, of the game, I asked you what you thought about it. Have you changed your mind? Do you think that it was kind of rusty, or you think he was protecting the injury? Do you think it was hurting when he was throwing? In other words, do you think it was still injury related, or do you think he was just nerves, rust, whatever? I mean, the interception wasn't even close. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So you still think it's rust?
It's I hope it's rust. I'm hoping it's rust, because if it's not rust, then Coach, we're talking about a much broader, much more serious issue. So I'm hoping it was just rust. And he didn't seem stressed about it. No. Right? If I had seen him, CJ, if I've seen his body language, if I've seen Quinn maybe down, but the team they were obviously going to win the game. They were in control of the game. He was just off. The running game obviously was able to supplement any, productivity that was lacking because of the passing game. I don't know. I didn't think his body language didn't say to me that it was injury related. I think if it was injury related, I think you would have seen a much more somber Quinn. But he wasn't. He was excited. I think he knew, man, I'm just off. And I've had games, trust me, where you are off. It happens. I've had them where you're just not on your A game. You don't want that to be in the big game, but it feels like to me, CJ, it was kind of, he just had an off game and he was rusty, and he knows he'll be able to bounce back versus Georgia.
Yeah, I imagine so. Again, you watch Quinn in that first quarter, and I think it was that rust to me kind of stemmed from not having the confidence of knowing the guys up front were going to protect him. He looked in a way flustered, like a quarterback that had been hit like 10 to 15 times in games previously, when we know that's not necessarily the case with this Texas offensive line. But also, you kind of have to tip your cap to Oklahoma, because early on they were bringing all sorts of different twists and stunts, and there's reasons why their confusion created so many short drives with the 3 and outs for Texas offensively. There is nowhere to go with the football. And when there was, pressure created the opportunity for that ball to be errant or held onto for a sack. And we saw that with the miss to Isaiah Bond. We saw that with the sack on the first play. If DJ Campbell's able to maybe create 2 or 3 more steps of pocket presence for Quinn early on in that second drive, you have a touchdown to Isaiah Bond on that play, and we probably aren't talking about it right now. But because of that Oklahoma front creating some pressure there, it becomes a conversation. I'm not too worried about Quinn. I don't think I ever will be. It wasn't a pretty game. It's probably to what we were talking about, probably the worst single quarter we've seen from Quinn. But if that's the case, and you're able to see how he bounced back with over 220 yards of offense in the second quarter, hey, that's fine with me. Georgia's going to be pretty good, but this Texas offense is darn good as well. And Quinn's, kind of the head that attached to the snake there. And right now he's going to be the guy that leads you forward.
Go ahead, Coach.
I was just going to say, we talked about this last week. Don't think that Venables is just going to sit over there in the same stuff he's been in. He ain't going to show us what he's been doing. He's got stuff. He has stuff to confuse our quarterbacks, and it was probably good timing, seeing that Quinn had missed a couple of games, and I think y'all both make really good points. But the key is he came back, played well enough for us to win, and certainly didn't help his Heisman hopes. But a big game over Georgia next week will and I predict Quinn will come back on fire. He'll watch this film. He's already watched it several times, I'm sure. And he'll come back next week because he knows he's going to be on.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically almost a month, right? That he was
with
out
the open day too. Yeah,
with the week bye week, and then the 2 weeks for Arch. I mean, that's a long time to be off. So like I said, I'm going to say it's rust.
What's crazy is, as bad as that first quarter was, as kind of stagnant the offense was to get going. You look down at the end of the day, and he's 20 of 29 for 200 yards, and you're sitting there saying, "Wow, it didn't feel like that was the case for Quinn." But that's again, like it just sneaks up on you, and that's kind of the quarterback that Quinn is. He's going to make the right read. He's going to get the ball in the hands of guys that can create after the catch. And again, we've seen that. If you can kind of touch up on some of those errant throws closer to the red zone, maybe when you didn't see his feet, kind of get to where we've seen it already this year. Hey, you're looking at a 70-85% completion percentage in a game where he was pretty bad to start. And that's, again, the level of talent and caliber that Quinn is. He's a heck of a quarterback.
Yeah, that's his bad game. Yeah, that was that was his bad game. He's like, that's going to be like his worst game of the season. Totally agree. All right, I know we got some questions. We'll get to those, but let's get our very special guest, because every Monday we are pleased to be joined by a lifetime Longhorn, my former teammate and friend, our friend Stevie Lee. What's going on, Stevie? How you doing?
What's happening, fellas?
Let me first give props to our good friends at Hardgrove Roofing, because that's why we can have Stevie Lee on the show, and we're grateful for that. Thank you very much to our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing, with offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course the great state of Texas, including Austin, Texas. Hardgrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs, plus they're Longhorn friendly, not only with partnerships with great people like Stevie Lee here, but also lifetime Longhorn Bert Arbin as well. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. You won't find anybody that represents the burnt orange better than Hardgrove Roofing. Call them today for a free roof inspection. Best price you're going to get, free 99. You want to know who's on your roof. For superior, reliable service, know who's on your roof at Hardgrove Roofing. That's hardgroveroofing.com, 512-645-3202. Thank you very much to our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. Stevie Lee, how you doing, brother? Oh, man. I want to give you the floor. First of all, just give me your thoughts about what you saw. I don't know how many times you've watched it, but what you saw and what you thought about your Longhorns after them putting that Old Testament style butt whipping on them Sooners.
It was fun to watch, man. Y'all talked about it a little bit. We started off a little slow, but Ewers was out 2.5 games. So the offense started out slow, not as good as I wanted them to start out, but the defense looked pretty good. There was a great whooping, man. I don't know if y'all seen my Instagram, but Chris in the chat saw it. I was in Oklahoma, so what? I had to drive past the shootout or whatever we're calling it these days to get up to Oklahoma, taking my daughter on a college trip, college visit. Not to OU and not to OSU. We went to another smaller college in Langston, Oklahoma, to check out the volleyball team and things like that. And it was a lot of fun. But while I was up there, I had to hit 35 to come back down south. So I stopped in Norman and did a little trolling. So if you guys want to go see it, go check out my Instagram, man. It's on there.
Nice. I love it. Man, this rivalry is getting petty again. I figured for some time they had lost the pettiness to it, but now with those guys playing the flag out there, how do you feel about the Baker Mayfield jersey? How do we feel about that?
I don't know, man. The Baker Mayfield, there it is.
There you go. Look at him.
The Baker Mayfield jersey, that's old school, man. We could have gotten a newer jersey or something like that, but what was the significance with the Baker Mayfield jersey, man?
If I had to guess, it would just be they needed some jersey to blow up. And that was the first that they found.
And did y'all see Baker? He commented on that.
Yeah, he did.
Of course.
Yeah.
What did he say? I didn't see it. What did he say?
He said basically, it's nice because I was born in Austin, just a young Austin. He said an Austinite, proud of it. He said it's good to be living rent-free, basically, in their heads. Even a decade after being done with the rivalry, good to be living rent-free. I'm telling you, the rivalry now is reaching a new level of petty, and I'm all here for it, by the way. So I said Baker planted the OU flag when he played. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. But you know what I think this is? No joke. I think this really is the theory is that this is actually a Westlake Lake Travis thing that has now blossomed into the Texas OU rivalry because of Baker and because then remember how Baker Mayfield used to really talk stuff on Sam when Sam was playing in the Texas OU game. He talked a lot of trash. He was playing in the league, but he was still like take these shots at Sam Ehlinger all the time while Sam was playing. And that was really more of a Westlake Lake Travis thing than it was a Texas OU thing. And that's where the roots of it. So somebody tells me Michael Taft Daddy, who was out there too playing the flag, who's a good friend of Sam Ehlinger, that this is, who's also a Westlake guy, that this is kind of still more their Westlake Lake Travis beef that they're taking out in the it's materializing in the Texas OU rivalry. That's my theory. And then, honestly, I'm not even mad at it, but that seems to be the case because I'm like, Baker Mayfield is an OU GOAT, but I'm with you. I'm like, I don't know if that was relevant. I was like, why Baker? Baker out of all people, why not somebody else? But I guess Baker's as good as anybody else. Who cares? Someone says Baker was yapping before, during, and after the game last year. Baker's always yapping. That's what Baker does. Baker's always going to be yapping about something. You know what I mean? All right, Stevie, sorry about that. Let's get into
That's all good. Well, I was going to ask you guys how y'all feel about the defense this time, man. I mean, I know we were crying from our yacht, but how are we feeling on the yacht today?
Still good.
6 games.
What's that?
Is that even real? 3 touchdowns in 6 games we've given up.
That's crazy. How many sacks we had this game? We had 5 sacks this game.
5 sacks, 11 in the last 2 games, and we talked about it. Coach, you mentioned it. You know what Venables implemented defensively is probably something Texas hadn't seen a whole lot on film. That whole game plan that Oklahoma put in for Michael Hawkins against Texas is unlike anything that they've shown on film the entire season, with the rollouts, with what we call like the rip ram, where you have the guys, the whole offensive line rolling right, the quarterback rolls right, the running back, the lead running back on your side gives like a 2 shuffle and then comes back for the counter draw in a way. Texas probably hadn't seen that the entire week, 2 weeks leading up in practice. For them to come out and, you know, the first quarter, first 3 drives, you know, maybe there were some runs that got 7-8 yards. You know, you saw them move the ball for a few first downs. That was really it. I don't think they ever touched the red zone until the final minute or 2 of the entire game against an offense that they really hadn't seen or game planned against, I would assume, because of how new look it was. For them to fly or kind of come up on the fly with what they were able to do defensively, that's as impressive as anything that they showed, in my opinion. And that's more, you know, hat tip to the coaching staff, but to the on-field communicators. That's Anthony Hill, that's Jahdae Barron, that's Andrew Makuba, that's the guys up front, the guys that can cohesively work to get everything lined up. I can't imagine that's a very easy thing to do, Stevie and Rod, as guys who have played defense and maybe seen some things that aren't what you expected. The longest play that Oklahoma had offensively, 15 yards. Again, that's an elite defense right there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You know, and you're absolutely right. But y'all were talking about it a little bit earlier about the recruiting weekend. This is a big recruiting weekend, and I don't want to talk too much about the last game. Let's go move forward because we got a huge week ahead, right? I mean, Georgia coming in, that's huge. But talk about recruiting a little bit. I wish I can get in front of these recruits and say the University of Texas and Austin is an elite world-class city, elite world-class program. And not only do you have all of that, you have brotherhood. Like, I feel like I can call on Rod and he'll come to my house and do anything I need him to do. And I'll do the same for him. That's the brotherhood we got. And we'll do anything for the Shipley boys and coach, right? So that's what we have here. So recruiting is very, very important to keep this legacy going, what we got going, right? What's going on in Austin this weekend is unreal, man. I'm going to the F1 race all 3 days. Nice. Trying to get back over to the game in time enough for kickoff because I want to watch qualifying on Saturday at the F1 track. So I'm sports and entertainment in Austin right now is at the highest level of any city. This is a world-class city, guys. We got race car, then we got Sting on Friday. We got more race car stuff, and then we got Quinn on Saturday. Then we got number 4. Is it number 4, number 1 coming in here playing football? Like
number 5, yeah.
Dream come true in Central Texas, man. To have all these events coming on right here in Austin, man. It's really cool. I'm so
with
excited.
ACL last week too.
And ACL last week. This is the sports and entertainment capital. Who is LA?
You want to take? No, I know what you want to tell. No, I'm with you because I'm almost 40. I'm 44 now, so I'm an old man. But but you want to tell these young people like, hey man, make the right choice. Okay.
Yeah.
And Texas is the right choice.
No question.
For so many different reasons. Because not only the city of Austin itself and your experience, but also now the quality of football they're playing, developing guys at a high level, NIL opportunities. You're talking about the brotherhood and the network of Longhorn fans, the alumni base, one of the biggest in the world, who like to take care of their family and get together and talk to people. I walked into a place earlier today, just running some errands, and they was talking Texas football. They was talking about Texas and how it's like, oh man, when they played the Aggies down there, they were just, and I remember I was like, man, it's been a while since I just randomly started walking into places and they're so excited. They're just talking Texas football and how good they are. So I'm with you. I think the late great Daryl K. Royal said it, the BBs are in the box. And when the BBs are in the box, I don't know if there's a more powerful institution and program than Texas football. And God bless Steve Sarkisian. He got the BBs in the box. And now the rest of college football needs to be afraid.
Yeah.
Honestly, be very afraid. That's just the truth. I'm not saying that to be arrogant and cocky, but that's always been the case for Texas. If they ever got the BBs back in the box, they are going to be just a beast of a program. And it seems that's the case. I was close. We had it close. And then 05 and then from 05 to 09, basically, is Jordan Shipley there too. The BBs were in the box.
Yeah, and
they weren't totally in the box when I was there. We were close. They were piecemealing them back in, Stevie. But now they're in the box, and now like I said, the recruiting. That's why you're bringing up recruiting. I don't know if there is any, stopping the juggernaut right now once it gets rolling. If they keep the recruiting thing happening and Sark and his staff keep developing talent at this level.
Hey, Stevie, I got a question for you here. As we look ahead towards Georgia, and I'm not sure how much Georgia you've watched, but they are Georgia, right? They have stacked top 5 classes in the last 5 cycles. They've won a couple national championships. Sark called them the gold standard. Have you felt like Texas has played adequate opponents enough to where you feel comfortable with what Texas has put on tape to match up with a Georgia-level team? Or could they be in for a surprise and with a team that maybe has a little bit more talent than what we've seen with Oklahoma, Michigan, and the rest so far this year?
Right. So we know that Georgia has the talent, right? This is not going to be a surprise for us. We had big challenges this season, and we rose to those challenges. Remember, we went into Michigan. I mean, that still is not a cakewalk, guys. Right. And then our home opener with the SEC, that was weight on our shoulders with that, But yes, this is probably the biggest game of the year for us right now. I don't think they'll be surprised by anything. What we need to do is still remember that they're good and they're going to make plays. Well, put your hand back in the ground and go on to the next play. Short-term memory, and execute. That's all we need to do. We have talent just like they have talent, but I think that we have better game plan. Our coaches are on top of it right now, man. There's a couple things on special teams that we just got to button up a little bit, but we're on it, man. So I don't think these kids are going to be, intimidated by Georgia coming into our place. Remember Bevo almost hooked the Bulldogs, so we're gonna do the same thing,
It's a new UGA though. They got a new UGA, I think, too.
Hey man, one UGA, 2 UGA, all others a new UGA, whatever, man. It's
that other one said no mas.
No mas. Oh, he ain't on no more. That's why he bowed out, man. He retired.
He was smart. That's a smart UGA right there.
Yeah, he went to other heaven.
I want to ask you one more question because I know you got to go. We appreciate your time. Give me your thoughts on that Silas Bolden play. I mean, that's the Anthony Hill is your defensive player of that game. You know, Trey Wiseman, I think, is the offensive player of the game for you. But give me your thoughts on that play, man. That play pretty much embodied the culture that Sark talks about, describes, that he really champions over and over again. It was on display there again. It reminds me of that Jay Wick play versus TCU, one of those that it's got nothing to do with your football skill set. It's got nothing to do with your physical skills. That's about football character. And on display for Salas that time.
Just be around the ball. So wherever the ball is, you're running full speed to the ball, and that's what he was doing.
That's what he was doing.
And when he got there, he saw ball. He went to go get ball. You know what I'm saying? That's the play you're talking about, right?
Yeah, you know, that's exactly the play I'm talking about.
Absolutely. So when they ran that replay, because I was like, damn, where did he come from? When they ran the replay, he was way behind the play.
Three guys behind.
Yeah, but get around the ball. And in his mind, he was probably running to the end zone to get ready to celebrate. But he was still in sprint mode, and then hit that second gear again and jumped on the ball. You see ball, get ball for sure, man. Because that could have been disastrous going out the back of the end zone. That's back, So, man, whenever you're on the field, hustle to the ball.
Hustle to the ball.
Never know what happens on the point of attack, man.
Yep.
So that was, those are the type of players we want to recruit. If those type of players are coming to us this week, those are the type of ones that we really want to hit hard and say, "Yeah, we want you here. We want you here. Here's $200,000 in NIL money." However that worked, I don't know how it worked. I wish I knew how it worked.
Yeah. But no, that's right. But think about it, that's a guy that he has a lot of reason. We've been following his story to be frustrated with the season. It's a guy that was a dude at Oregon State. The dude at Oregon State came here because he probably wanted to win championships, wanted to showcase his skills on a bigger stage. And the season has not been going, I'm sure, the way he planned. All right. We all plan to be the leading receiver or the leading, the best player or whatever we are. We all plan to be that guy. It didn't always work out that way. And yet it has not affected his attitude and his effort.
Yeah, because he didn't get any did he get any receiving yards?
How about that punt return?
I don't think so. I don't know if
he got one reception for 3 yards.
Okay, one reception. You're right, he did. I remember that little small one. You're right, he got one. Yeah.
That's the punt return. That punt return was huge too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I said, you're right. That's the kind of guys you're recruiting, that kind of football character. Mm-hmm. That was on display in that moment. And good for Silas Bolden, man. He deserves it. All right. Anybody else got questions for Stevie? Anybody else before we let him go?
What was the biggest home game you played in, Stevie? And how do you think this will compare to that?
Oh, man, the biggest home game. Golly, that's a good question, man. Well, I only lost one game in that stadium over my 5 years there, and that was against Arkansas and Houston Nutt. And that game really pissed me off because they celebrated like they won a national championship, man. They didn't go into the locker room. They took pictures out there, man. It was terrible. It was terrible. Yeah, they took they before they went in, they all huddled up and took pictures on our field, man. And I hated that, bro. Hated it. Wanted to go out there and fight, bro, but we got our asses whooped. Yeah, but man, the biggest home game in that stadium, man. A&M was always a big home game for us.
That was always a big game.
Always a big game. Yep. Yeah, so I would say one of the A&M games were the big games, man. And I'm so glad this game is back. It should have never left, man. For the state of Texas, this game is great. So we play there this year, but next year, that's a big one. Being at home, yeah.
No, you're right about that, Steve. I'm trying to think, but you're right. I think you're right, man. I think the A&M games were our big game because we didn't have the big non-cons like they do now. Right. We didn't have those, right, Coach? We had like North Carolina State or Stanford. Those are good teams, but they're not, blue blood like Ohio States and Michigans and stuff like that.
Yeah, Wyoming, Rice.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. North Texas. Lula, nothing against them, but that it's a different time. So I think you're right, Steve. I think Texas A&M was that big game, and And you're right. It was always the holiday associated with it too. So it was always big.
It was always a bye week before the game too. So we were all hungry, ready to eat, man. So
yep, no doubt. Stevie Lee, MP Houston says, can we get another Summer League cameo appearance? He's a big fan of your lovely wife. Yes, Stevie Lee out kicking his coverage, and yes, I'll give vouch for that. So
next week I'll have her come in and say hi next week. She's out there cooking me some lunch right now. You know.
There you go. See, there you go. Hey, you know what? Once again,
don't tell I said that.
I'm gonna tell you. No, we won't. Oh, I know Summer. You don't. Yeah. Don't be bragging about that. But I will take credit for hooking up this beautiful couple because
no question.
It's one of the things I brag about, Steve. I brag about it to everybody. I'm like, hey, Stevie Lee and his beautiful wife, see them beautiful kids. That's because of me. Okay,
that's all right, man.
It's all right.
If I had a third kid, it'd name him Rod.
All right, thanks, Steve. We appreciate you, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys, man. Y'all have a good one. Hook 'em.
Thanks, Stevie.
Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee, courtesy of our good friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. So we appreciate Hardgrove Roofing at hardgroveroofing.com, 512-645-3202. Know who's on your roof with Hardgrove Roofing, and you can get a free roof inspection today if you reach out to our friends over there at Hardgrove Roofing. Thank you very much for sponsoring the winning drive. All right, let's hit some of these super chats, and we'll get to as many questions as we can, but the super chats are first. So thank you guys very much. Let's start with Aggie grad 0%er. As an Aggie grad / lifetime Texas fan. Ooh, man, that's some conflict, right? There's some cognitive dissonance going on. This season is looking like an epic game down the road. There will be a lot of tears for those old SEC folks. Man, I imagine you're talking about Texas A&M. Yeah, right now, guys, there are some people that believe that one of the most likely scenarios is Texas going undefeated or maybe a one loss the rest of the way. We'll talk about Texas, Georgia. But the Aggies taking care of business the rest of the way, which is oftentimes they'll Aggie that up. But they have a very favorable schedule for the rest of the season. And if they both end up undefeated, you could see back-to-back Texas A&M games playing in the end of the regular season and also in the SEC title game potentially. What do you think is the chances of that? Coach, I'll throw it to you first. What are the chances of a back-to-back Texas A&M SEC title game after the regular season finale?
Yeah, I haven't seen A&M schedule recently, so it's kind of hard for me to speak to that. But it's hard to imagine that they don't trip up somewhere, along the way, and us too. But that doesn't necessarily keep you out, the championship game. But what would be the odds, like you were saying about Georgia, to be playing A&M 3 times?
Look at that schedule, Coach. Look at that schedule.
It's doable.
It's doable, Coach.
That LSU game is one that maybe will trip them up. LSU's still dealing with a bunch of injuries, but to my surprise, I kind of wrote off LSU. I wasn't a big fan of that team earlier this year. I thought they'd go 7-5, 8-4. They've pieced things together. That win this weekend was a game they shouldn't have won, and they found a way. That's the one game that really could provide some sort of hurdle for A&M beforehand. But Auburn's looking bad. South Carolina, you never know. 2 tough places to play, but right now I think that you see A&M coming in as the favorite for both of those games pretty clearly.
Yeah.
You think A&M will be favored at LSU?
It's at A&M, right?
They're playing them at home. I'm sorry.
At College Station. So you get the luxury of playing at Kyle Field, but we've talked about this in the offseason discourse. We've talked about Kyle Field being a home field advantage until you see A&M actually have to play and see what their records are, because I don't think their record indicates that playing at home is any sort of advantage for A&M, even with the crowds, the atmosphere, whatever goes into it. It's a kind of an odd thing. You think home field, you get, a higher chance at winning. It's not necessarily the case for A&M.
Yeah, but no, looking at that schedule, it's doable. LSU would probably be that's potentially the roadblock, but the stat.
Well, they're certainly playing better. They've got their feet under them.
Yeah, the stat that I throw out there all the time is Texas and Texas A&M have only had double-digit win seasons in the same season only once in their history.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's
wow.
I believe it's like 1970, 75, 76, somewhere around there. I forget exactly what year it is, but it only happened once in the history of the two programs. That's why the paranoia exists on both sides, that one school can be good, but it has to be at the expense of the other. they both can't be good at the same time. It's like, I think they can, but Longhorn fans and Aggie fans do not believe they can be good. It's like the Longhorns are good because that's always been the history, though.
Right.
That's all their program. It's like, well, if we're good, that means the Longhorns are bad, and if the Longhorns are good, that means the Aggies are bad. But this may be one of those exceptions to the rule this year, where both are good.
That's why I love where this game sits right now. At the end of the year, you look at the 12-team playoff and A&M sitting with one loss. If they lose to Texas, do they get in with their resume, with their strength of schedule? Texas, could they fight for a bye week? If they lose to Georgia, they could also be fighting for a potential spot in the playoff. With the way that things are shaping up right now, there's a lot of parity going on in college football. A lot of teams that are going to have a similar 1 or 2 loss resume. That could be the deciding game for either team, basically looking forward to that final matchup to get into the 12-team playoff, or even on top of that, going to Atlanta to play in the SEC championship game.
1975, I believe it was. 1975. They were both 10-2. That was it. That's it. And I think actually 1975, I want to say they won the Texas A&M game in 1975, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say the Aggies might have got the best of the Longhorns in that game. Here it is. Yep, they did. They won 20-10. Damn Aggies. All right, getting back to it. The questions here. The Commodian says, all right. Ty, y'all, for all the fun. Doesn't matter what time it is. OU still sucks. I got Georgia on my mind. You damn right we do. Got Georgia on our mind and feeling good. I had the Longhorns 11-1 at the start of the season, guys. My only loss was the Georgia game. I believe you and ICJ had the same, but when we had a chance to re-predict, if you will, and reassess things, you had Texas going undefeated, and I still had the loss at Georgia. But I got to tell you, right now, picking that game, just right now, early lean, haven't done all my research, it's hard not to lean Texas versus Georgia. And I feel
I'm sticking with it, Rod. I'm sticking with an undefeated regular season for Texas. Texas comes in as a 3.5 point favorite at home this weekend. I think I'm taking that 3 points. I think I'm taking Texas to win. I was thinking early a 31-20 win. I'm thinking 34-24, something in that range. I just haven't been impressed with Georgia's offense, and now you see Georgia allow 31 points to Mississippi State. Maybe I need to have questions about their defense too, because we watched Michael Van Buren, Rod, and Coach, and we saw what that offense looked like for Mississippi State. And I know that it was kind of early in that, kind of a adoption and, adaptation for him in that offense. But 31 points to Mississippi State, a team that is widely considered to be one of the more or lesser untalented teams in the entire conference. Maybe I need to have some questions about that Georgia defense, because right now it was the offense and the playmakers that I was sitting there saying, do they have the guys that can create against a Manny Muhammad, a Jahdae Barron, an Andrew Makuba back deep? I didn't think so, but now I'm starting to think Texas might just have too much speed offensively for these guys to keep up with. And we saw the scoring outburst by Alabama. I don't know. I like Texas by 10 right now. That's crazy. That's crazy to say.
Woo. Hey, no, I like Texas too. It's hard to coach. It's hard to pick against them right now. Texas is playing, at least defensively, some of the best football in the country, and offensively, we know what this offense is capable of when Quinn is clicking. He just wasn't clicking versus Oklahoma in the last game. All right, getting back to the questions here. Super chats. Jeff, thank you very much for the super chat. Said if we win and Vandy wins, does ESPN Game Day go to Nashville for the big showdown? But didn't Vandy lose already 2 games or something like that? Did they lose to like Georgia State or something early on in the season?
But they got it. Yeah, but if they win again though, that's game day. I mean, that's game day potential, because they're the kind of the surprise team. You know,
You're right.
you look at them, and of course, I don't know. You got Miami sitting over there. They're going to win the rest of their games. I would say.
You're right. They look undefeated. Yeah.
But that'd be great. I
Vanderbilt
would love to see. I don't know that they would do us back to back.
They got Ball State, so you would think that's a win, of course. But man, that's been a surprising team. They lost to Missouri in overtime. They lost to Georgia State. You could very well make the argument that they should be undefeated, right? Considering the talent, the games that they won, they probably should have won that Missouri game, or at least extended it. They missed, I believe, a 29-yard field goal that would have extended the overtime period on the road against Missouri. So I don't know. That LSU, Texas A&M, Missouri, Alabama, those are probably the two games that get the nod. But Vanderbilt received the most votes of any unranked team in the latest AP poll. So theoretically making them number 26. If one of those top 20 to 25 teams lose, you'd see a ranked Texas Vanderbilt matchup, which I'm sure no one had on their bingo card coming into this year.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. And I would say, with those early losses they had, and they were close losses. You said one was overtime and one was just a one-score loss. It's
4
possible
points.
because they just got with Diego Pavia. This is his first year, correct?
Yep.
Coming there from, was it New Mexico State, somewhere like that? It could just took them a while to, really kind of get their continuity and their chemistry going as a team. And now they got it rolling. They got it clicking. They're dangerous. No, Vandy's dangerous. I never thought I'd say that, but that is, you cannot take Vandy lightly. No, it's wild that that's what we are right now. But yeah, that could end up being a game that sneaks up on you. I don't think Texas can lose that game, but in terms of them giving you a game on the road there at Vandy, no, you can't take them lightly. There are no pushovers in the SEC this year. That's for sure. Jose, thank you for the super chat, Jose. We appreciate it. He says, Coach, according to OU Ball Nors, OU installed an entire new offense. CJ actually got into some of that. Was that a mistake on them? Is that hard to do in 2 weeks?
I don't know if it was a mistake or not. I certainly wouldn't have done that. You put in a few wrinkles, that you keep in your hip pocket, and maybe, do some of the same things out of some different looks. And they weren't even doing that. They were just doing totally new stuff. I don't think that's wise as a coach. And you want your players in a game atmosphere like that, you don't want them to have to think that much. And they've just been practicing this offense a couple of weeks. And so if that's in fact true, there's too much thinking going on. And, our defense just smothered them. I mean, what did he have, 30 pressures?
I believe that's
30 pressures. And I heard on Coffee and Football this morning.
And they did that against mostly rollouts, which I don't think is an easier passing opportunity for defenses to get pressure on the quarterback, right? It's designed to move the pocket away from the pass rushers. And I asked Colin Simmons after the game, I said, hey, they kind of rolled out. Did you think they'd do that? Was it easier for you? And he just goes, no, we didn't think they'd do it that much. And some of those rollouts turned into 2 to 3 yard gains for the quarterback, and I just think that they knew coming in that their offensive line had no chance. And evidently they were right, even with the new game plan. They didn't have a chance. 5 sacks on your young quarterback, 30 pressures. There was no way that they were going to have sustained, protection to get the ball down the field. And that's, again, a credit to all 3 levels of the Texas defense right now.
Yeah, and I think it's not just on the O-line. Yes, the O-line, they did not perform very well for Oklahoma going up against that Texas front, but they didn't have any wide receivers to get open. They didn't really have – they were their 6th, 7th, and 8th best wide receivers. They couldn't get open downfield on that Texas secondary. So it was a confluence of disasters for that Oklahoma offense going up against arguably the best defense in the country. All right, before we continue, we got a couple of questions here, and thank you guys for the questions. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Let's thank our good friends over at Duck Camp. Duck Camp produces premium outdoor goods for the outdoor spirit in all of us. Duck Camp is dedicated to providing the best outdoor goods so you can outdoor good, whether you're an avid hunter or you're a fisherman or you like to hang out around a campfire. You prefer the camaraderie of the campsite like me. Duck Camp is a brand that understands the culture of outdoor living and the good times and good friends that come along with living an outdoor lifestyle. Go check out their new fall selection today at duckcamp.com. I've checked it out myself. Got some really cool items in there. Already put my orders in. You should go do the same. Go check out duckcamp.com. We want to thank them for sponsoring the winning drive. All right, let's get back to some of the questions. Actually, before we do that, CJ, recruiting nuggets. Let's hit a couple of recruiting nuggets that you have about the upcoming weekend because of the magnitude of the top 5 matchup, Texas versus Georgia. A lot of recruits want to get in on this recruiting weekend. The numbers you guys are throwing out are crazy. Can you give the folks a couple of tidbits about what's coming up?
Yeah, big recruiting weekend coming up. Again, it's a great opportunity for Texas to showcase their stadium in this type of environment. They've done a great job against Mississippi State and ULM and UTSA, but obviously this is a little bit different when you have a top 5 opponent coming in, game day, all of the big talking services and shows will be there as well. You look at filling out the 2025 class right now and where Texas needs to go to get their guys and that class filled out. Well, you're going to have a number of commits, right? Caleb Chester, KJ Lacey, all 3 wide receivers, Lance Jackson. But beyond that, Michael Terry, Kelshawn Johnson, Javion Hilson, Malcolm Simpson, Justice Terry. It's a who's who of the 2025 recruiting class and who Texas wants to recruit. Justice Terry is the number 1 defensive tackle in the entire country. He only started looking at Texas over the last few weeks, and if Texas hadn't been winning to the level that they were winning and being the number 1 team has its perks, he wouldn't be visiting Texas right now, right? That's just not in the cards. But because Texas is taking care of business, it opens up some doors and they're able to go down some avenues they likely would not have been able to. So big time recruit right there. And of course, in the 26 class, it's about 40 deep right now and will only continue to get larger. It's a great opportunity to get a head start on that 2026 class, which already has 2.5, 3 commits in the class, depending on what Zalis Hicks ends up doing. But Rod, Coach, I was up at Lovejoy earlier this morning. I got to see Dalen McCutcheon, the newest Texas 2025 wide receiver commit. Said, yeah, man, I mean, I like what they do. They get all their wide receivers involved. They see me as a DeAndre Moore caliber player in this offense. I'm excited to get back down to Texas for the Georgia game. He, of course, was down there for the Mississippi State game. So a really talented kid. I actually have a take that the minute that he steps foot on campus, he might be the best route runner that will be on campus in that wide receiver room. And that's saying something, but that's kind of what separates him because he doesn't have that top end speed like you see with a Bond, a Bolden. Some of these guys Texas has thrown out Wingo, but his route running is going to be second to none.
Wow, I like that. That's a nice nugget. All right, getting back to the questions. How about this one? Colton, thank you very much for the super chat. Kelvin Banks in 3 stars versus Oklahoma, 115 pass block attempts, 0 quarterback hits, 0 sacks, 0 blown blocks. Coach, is it to the point where Kelvin Banks is so good, we don't even appreciate Kelvin Banks anymore and how good he is on the O-line? We just take it for granted that he's a top 5 player in college football pretty much right now and has been for, the last 2 years easily?
Oh,
yeah, he'll be I don't know. I'm thinking all-time UT offensive lineman in the history of our program.
Oh, okay.
Where would he rank in that? I was thinking top 3, maybe a little bit high, but I don't know. Top 5 for sure.
That's a fun question, Coach.
That is a fun question because you don't have stats to break it down. This is much more nuanced. I remember, it's because accomplishments on the 40 acres are different than your draft status. Because you get Mike Williams went number 2 overall, Big Leonard Davis went number 2 overall. That's
Colt McCoy's jersey retired, and he was in the middle of the 3rd round.
Exactly. So I don't know if we can just go like, well, he was drafted high. I was like, well, that doesn't mean that
doesn't matter.
They were more dominant on the 40 acres.
Good
Who's
point.
been more dominant at tackle than Kelvin Banks? Think about it. Since his freshman year, starting as a true freshman, playing at an freshman All-American, so playing at an All-American level since he was a freshman, playing against first-round talent. We have that as a freshman and dominating them. Who's been better? Give me an offensive tackle that's been better. That was better. I played with Big Mike Williams. I think Kelvin Banks is better, but I said I should have asked Stevie Lee. When Stevie Lee comes back, we got to ask him. Stevie Lee remembers Big Mike Williams too, and probably went up against him a couple times. Who knows? I need to pick. I'm going to text Corey Redding. I'm going to text my guys that went up against Big Mike Williams and ask them, like, who was better, Big Mike Williams or Kelvin Banks? I think right now I'm leaning Kelvin Banks.
Yes.
And I played with Big Mike Williams. We're number 2 overall.
Who is the Jerry Sizemore? Who do people talk about as being the best lineman to ever come through here in modern history?
Well, best line, like tackle or line? Like I said, I mean, well, that's a good question.
I'm talking about the whole offensive line. I mean, I don't know of a lineman in my lifetime that's been more dominant for the Longhorns than he has.
In the last 15 years, I don't think it's a question. He's without a doubt the guy. And Texas had some all conference level guys, not many, right? But like the Cosmes, the Connor Williamses, when they've had a guy, it stood out mostly because the rest of that offensive line hasn't been up to the standard of what was happening with those left tackles. But now it's kind of funny because you don't see Kelvin Banks' greatness because the rest of the line is almost up to that same level. There's still some spots where pressure gets through, right? It happens in football. But his greatness is – it's crazy to say right now that he's already talking – we're talking about his greatness and his legacy, but he's in that conversation because of how – that stat line down below us is outstanding.
Yeah. The Brockemeyer, he's better than Brockemeyer. Blake Brockemeyer was amazing, but he's better. Yeah. He's better. Justin Blaylock, some people say Justin Blaylock here. Yeah. Blaylock was great. Is he better? Was he better than Justin Blaylock? I think he was. Like I said, I feel disrespectful just saying he's better than all these great players. Like, who am I to say that? I don't know that. I mean, I got to talk to some. I need to text Dan Neal. We got to talk to Dan. Let's start bringing Dan Neal on. We got to bring some linemen on here and get their thoughts. So with Tony Hills, we're going to bring in some linemen because we can't. I don't know if we can accurately assess this, honestly. So I'm gonna do my best. Maybe we're gonna bring in some old school linemen.
Who we should have had on the show this week was McCorder, Mac.
Oh, that would have been great.
Georgia guy, coached at Texas, was the offensive line coach.
Yeah,
but he played at Georgia and coached at Georgia.
Yeah. No, I think
we got a fun one to have on.
Honestly, let's work on it, Coach. I would like to get some insight on this too. I want to know. I really want to know. I'm supposed to say Matthew put a tweet. Yeah, I saw this tweet too. Yeah, there you go. Good job, Matthew. You're the man. Thank you, CB. Texas football has already made history in the SEC, becoming the first team to score 250 plus points and allow fewer than 40 through the first 6 games of a season. Not bad for a debut. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's honestly, this is the thing about it. I think we have seen offenses as good as this Texas offense at Texas. I do. I think we've seen there's been some great offenses at Texas. That 05, 08 was a really good offense. Defensively, I think because of the stats, and I think we've seen defenses with better players. I want to say I think we've seen defenses at Texas with more talent overall, potentially. But I don't know if we've seen a defense perform this well as a unit and as a group.
Yeah.
Right, Coach? Like, we've seen really.
In my lifetime, I would go back. 05 was salty.
05 was nasty. 08, 09, Coach was nasty.
Yeah, it was.
Too.
Back in my day, 1984 was a team that defensively for Texas that a lot of people considered one of the best.
The 83 defense?
83 or 4, I can't remember.
83. Yep. 83 defense allowed 9 points per game. That 79 defense allowed 8.7 points per game. 05, where was 05?
Yeah, but you know what? That's offenses are way off the chart more effective than they were back then. I mean,
I agree with you.
It's so much harder now.
No,
so
I'm
much
with-
harder now to keep. I mean, just 3 touchdowns in 6 games with offenses
absurd.
today is just mind-boggling.
Pretty darn good. And think about when those touchdowns came too, right? Aside from the UTSA touchdown, the other 2 were when Texas, was up 30 or 40 by the end of the game. I mean, there's only been 1 meaningful touchdown allowed so far by the Texas defense, and it was on a run gap that wasn't filled right.
Yep.
It's been tremendous.
That's a free play.
Yep.
No, you're right about that. No, it has. It's been amazing. This defense has been extraordinary. All right, getting back to the super chat. Thank you guys for the super chats. Really appreciate it. We'll try to power through some of these questions. It's 420 somewhere. Says top 15 pass rush. Excited to get a less mobile quarterback. Carson Beck. Yeah, he doesn't move around very much. And we'll see if Johnny Nanson's got some special, or PK and Johnny Nanson, excuse me, have some special pressure packages to bring to the table. But the reason I say Johnny Nanson is because PK doesn't bring a lot of exotic looks. PK likes to play things pretty straight up and does a great job with that, coaching kind of the fundamentals. I think we're seeing more exotic stuff, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it coincides with PK coming on, with Nanson coming on board and him and PK collaborating. So I think that's what.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Rod, you called that from the start.
Yeah,
you called that long before the season ever started. Yeah,
it's been really good. And CJ, I saw you put out a tweet about how they use Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill both on the edge.
Ooh.
Nightmare fuel. Nightmare fuel.
I was going to go into that. I have a few plays circled or kind of marked that I'll put up on ontexasfootball.com tomorrow, just about how some of those unique looks were for the Texas defense. That play specifically, you go 5 out, you basically go man across with a cover 1 safety up at the top, but you go Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons both off the edges with Vernon Broughton, Jermaine Lole, and Barron Sorrell. I mean, that's a dream pass rush group right there. There were other situations where Texas moved even Vernon Broughton out to about a 5 tech and let him blitz off the edge. And then you saw Anthony Hill and Trey Moore and Colin Simmons kind of use as stand-up linebackers as like a sniffer over the nose. They're getting creative. And it took a long time because they're finally playing someone worth getting creative for. But I can't wait to see what kind of bag of tricks they open up for Georgia this weekend, because you're going to need to create pressure somehow. That's going to be as good an offensive line that Texas plays this upcoming weekend against Georgia. This will be the best quarterback Texas plays without a doubt. But my goodness, they started to kind of creak open a little bit, Rod, about how creative they can get. And I'm ready to see just how, magical or whatever you call a painter whenever they get into that zone and they just start going. Right now, they got all the canvas open. They got all the paints open. It's ready to see what kind of picture they can create right now.
No, I just love that they're basically turning Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill into these positionless weapons on defense. They're moving them around all over the place. I love what PK and Johnny Nanson do. This collaboration it's fantastic. It's better than I thought it was going to be, Coach. It's better than I thought it was going to be. I know it was going to be good. I know it was going to be this good. How about this one from Quinn? Says, ask a coach offense. CJ, I'm not sure what you want there, but ask a coach offense. CJ, you know what he's talking about? CJ, talking about you. All right, Quinn. Thank you for the super chat.
Sure.
I know exactly. You got to clarify for us. Hit us up. Let us know, Quinn. Thank you for the super chat, though. Major Alexander said this should be a Jay Cook game this week. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's any game because I didn't see Gunnar Helm being the leading receiver in the Texas OU game again, guys. Again, so Coach, your 2 biggest games of the year. Gunnar Helm's your leading tight end, your leading receiver. Did we see that coming?
No, I didn't. I'm not sure what's going on with John Tay. I don't know if he's. There's so much talent, you can't drop balls, and who knows what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, I'm sure he's a great kid, great attitude. I've never heard anything negative about anything about him, but there's a lot of good talent in there, and I keep thinking John Tay is going to take that next step, and it's just, Matthew Golden and, just others are just seem to be getting earning.
They're taking advantage of their opportunities right now, and that's kind of where you kind of have to fault with. Do you go with the hot hand? Do you go with the guy with a lot of upside? I think right now with the guys that have proven it so far, you kind of have to stick with what you've liked on the field. And with Texas, the way they like to run 21 and 12 personnel, you're taking a receiver off the field. And so that makes those opportunities a little, less often and frequent for guys like Cook to get the ball right now. You got to take advantage of when that ball's thrown to you. And I think that Mississippi State play is kind of lingering a little bit with the coaches.
I feel like that too, because it feels like they're going to force the issue with the receiver. I feel like it's going to be Silas Bowden. And it feel like if they're going to try to get a guy out there, right, Coach? They're going to, especially after what we just watched in the Texas, you're going to feel like if we're going to force it for a guy, you're going to be the guy. We're going to reward you for, your effort. Yeah. So
they had him lined up in the backfield for a snap too.
Yes, they did. I saw that. That was a good point, CJ.
I was just going to say, as a coach, and Rod, you know this as a player, there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes.
It is.
That we don't know anything about. I don't know if they do dorm checks, curfew. I mean, you're late to meetings. I'm not saying any of that. But there's so many things. Missed a study hall, whatever. I'm not saying that any player has done that, but I'm saying that when I was on staff, there were a lot of people saying, hey, why isn't so-and-so getting his share, And I know because behind the scenes he wasn't taking care of his business. Again, I want to reemphasize, I have no reason to believe that's John Tate at all. He's probably modeled. I'm sure he is. But I'm just saying we can guess all we want about why somebody that's real close talent-wise, and you think, there's you never know. You just never know what's going on behind the scenes. And that's not just John Tate. That's all of them.
Yep, that like you said, good point, Coach. It's like all we are privy to is what we see on the field and the film. And it's like, guys, that's only like a third of the picture. That's like there's practice and there's you being a student and all that kind of stuff. That's a great. I totally agree because I remember that too from other guys who got demoted, and it was not always for on-field production, that kind of stuff. Let's talk real quick. Let's tell you about Flat Creek Estate Winery before we move on here. We're getting close to the end of our live stream. I want to thank Flat Creek for sponsoring our the winning drive here. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right, folks. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine. Super Texan is one of my favorites. My wife loves it as well. Her mom, my mom as well, she loves it well when she came down to get a chance to taste it. And you will too. They have it available at your local Specs. It's also at your local Central Market. They have a great Flat Creek display there. And Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. That's Flat Creek Estate. Go check it out for yourself. Whether you want to go really in person to go really see that beautiful vineyard they have there, or if you want to go check out their great wine selection at flatcreekestate.com. All right, getting back to the questions here. Jeff says, Coach, they need the Shirleys to help out with the recruiting this weekend. Bring a bag of cash. What are the Shirleys? I don't know, Coach. What is Shirley's? I have no idea.
I don't know, but if that's supposed to be Shipley's, the only bag I'm going to bring is probably some donuts. That's about all I can afford.
Okay, sorry. I need to start reading these things with a more judicious eye.
I missed it too. I was like,
sorry, Coach, Jeff. I thought Coach was talking about some Shirley's. Like, Coach, what does Coach mean by Shirley's? It can't be good.
No kidding. Probably something real stupid and goofy. See CJ roll his eyes again.
Thank you, Jeff. Sorry about sorry. Yeah, I should be more meticulous in viewing these.
I will say that Jordan helps out recruiting occasionally. It's kind of like, as needed. Like if they got a country boy who likes to fish and hunt, whatever, that kind of stuff, they'll call Jordan.
Situational recruiting, Coach. You got to like that.
Well, they did that with a dude from Spearman, and he stayed a year and wound up going to OU. So Jordan recruited him and got him there, and then he
did his job.
He got him there. You got him to school.
I was a great wingman. I got him there. Y'all need to do the rest. Hey, Jordan doing his job. Dude,
who dropped the ball?
Stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, Major Alexander says, thank you very much for the super chat, Major Alexander. He said, I think we see the 5 wide and the intro of that last tight end that everyone has been asking about. You talking about Amari Knobloch? Is that I'm assuming who Major's talking about. Let me know if I'm off here, Major. I will say this about the 5 wide. Empty formation, which is when you empty the backfield, it's just a quarterback in the backfield. And you can do it from any personnel grouping. So you can do it from 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end. You can do it from 12, 1 back, 2 tight ends, whatever. 21 personnel as well. They were really successful versus Oklahoma in empty formation. 100% completion percentage out of empty. They have that PI on Ryan Wingo out of empty. Empty's been really good for Texas, probably this season and even going back to the last 3 games of last season. And if you go watch some of the film on that Bama-Georgia game, and I'm going to break it down in detail and get the numbers, Georgia was susceptible to empty formation versus Bama. Now, it could be because Jalen Milroe is basically one of the most dynamic runners in college football and a dynamic passer, so it's a different threat he presents. But because of Texas, I think they're very explosive potential in empty because of all the skill position talent they have and Ewers' ability to deliver the football in precision-like accuracy in the short to intermediate range. It's something Texas should explore versus Georgia.
Quick slants, yep. Little whip routes underneath, whatever you can after getting spread out. Have everybody go wide and have a guy that's essentially a hot route. And that's a way that you can create some yards after the catch to a Silas Bolden or a DeAndre Moore, someone like that.
And it forces them. It got Oklahoma out of their disguise. You can't, Coach. You can't disguise it when the team's goes empty. You got all right. You got to abandon all your disguise.
Yeah.
Yep, and get to your assignment. And that's what it really does. It forces you to, all right, we got to go alignment assignment here, guys. And they usually have a default they go to. Either they're going to blitz empty or they're going to drop everybody back in empty. It's pretty simple. You only got a couple of options in defense out of empty.
Yeah, that's right.
That's kind of what it does too. Quentin says, hey, ask a coach on College Football 25, random plays that don't make sense. Seems like what OU does.
I get it. Yes. No, that they had their offense this past weekend had no rhyme or reason to what they had been doing beforehand. It looked like they almost got stuck in a single formation and was like, all right, this is what we're running the rest of the day because they didn't know how to back out and find a different formation. So, yes, Quinn, I agree 100%.
Unfortunately, it kind of reminds me of Texas against Arkansas in the borderline erotic game.
Yep.
Our offense was so anemic that night. We couldn't even get a play call. We'd have to call timeout or get a delay game. It was, and that's a bowl game. You had a month to prepare for it. So I'm so glad we're off that train.
I just want to point out we've had 2 stories today from people who've been on the Texas sideline, Coach Shipley and Stevie, who brought up Arkansas games and how Arkansas put it on Texas. Can't overlook Arkansas ever when Arkansas's on the schedule, man, because they play with a different type of hatred, and they hate them some Texas. They do.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Texas doesn't hate Arkansas.
Yes, exactly.
That's the problem.
Yep. You better make sure you're ready.
Somebody's going to have to manufacture some stories or something to get our guys fired up. I've been known to do that a time or two. Put some quotes. I used to put up a preview of our game, and I that's back when you could cut and paste on the old computer and nobody would know. And I would put some quotes in there that the coach said about our team. Put it up on the bulletin board.
Coach, did you see the Missouri Texas A&M game? There was a Theo Weiss, the receiver from Missouri, posted on his Instagram story a picture of a blanket with one of the cornerbacks from A&M, and that there's a little letter that says, "You're going to need this because this is basically what I'm going to be doing all week or all game to you is just covering you." And then they asked they asked the player and they asked Coach Elko. They said, "Hey, what'd you know about this? Do you have any idea of what was going on here?" And both of them said, "You need to ask Coach Drinkowitz about this." And that's Missouri's head coach, because I think that's where it stemmed from. So I think what they were insinuating there is they looked internally, Missouri did, to get some extra motivation for some of their big players going up against the A&M. Obviously, it didn't work; they got their ass kicked. But
that is great. I didn't heard that story. That's pretty cool. That's random. I like that. All right, I know we're getting close to the end. We got like 4 or 5 more minutes, so let's hit a kind of rapid fire here. Antoine, can we admit Wingo is the best wide receiver? Why no 4 wide receiver sets? I don't know why we have not seen the red package. I said before the season we would see the red package, and I've been wrong about that. That's a 10 personnel package, 1 receiver. 1 back, 0 tight ends, 4 wide receiver package there. What about Wingo, Coach? Can we?
Oh yeah, I agree.
Really?
I mean, I don't know right now if he's the best on the team. He's certainly the most explosive, but he's. Yeah, I can't admit it. I might think it, but I can't admit it.
I'll admit it.
I'm his biggest fan. I mean,
yeah,
I have been from the word go.
Yeah, and with the bond,
but I see what he's saying. No 4 wide receivers. That's a little bit perplexing.
Yeah, it's just not. Sark says the tight end position is the second most important position in his offense behind quarterback. So maybe it's just that simple. He doesn't want a tight end off the field. Todd Lacey says, does the injury to Williams change the defensive approach, or is it full speed ahead with McDonald? For those who haven't heard, Derek Williams is out for the season with the injury he sustained in the Texas OU game. CJ, what are your thoughts about how it changes the defensive approach?
I don't think it does. It's very unfortunate that he's out for the year. He was coming along. You look at the 2 big games that he played in. He had an interception against Michigan. He had a forced fumble against Oklahoma. But you look at the 2 games where he was missed, and he's already missed 2 games due to a hamstring this year. And I think Texas was just fine with what they were able to do rotationally with Andrew Makuba, with Michael Taft. You saw 20 snaps from Jordan Johnson-Rubel this weekend. I think he's that next man off of the bench into that rotation if you want an extra body. But right now, Jelani McDonald, 47 snaps is the most he's played in a single game as a Longhorn. That came this past weekend. You can spin him down into a big nickel. You can spin him down into the box, but he also has good experience playing deep. He's the next man up into that 4-man rotation with JJR kind of being your 5th. It sucks, obviously. Derek Williams is a heck of a football player, but Texas, again, talk about depth. They've got it at safety, and right now you're going to see that the rest of the season with those 2 filling in the void for him moving forward.
Thanks, CJ. Lane Seawright says, how did Georgia come back in the Bama game? Did they run their way back in or hit throws? Curious what their restriction was. I thought it was a lot of contested catches they made down the field, right?
A lot of contested catches. It was a lot of 4th downs. They just forced slants and slants and slants. They didn't go deep. For the most part, they really had to work, and some of those drives in the 3rd quarter were like 5 and 6 minutes long. And you're like, dude, you're down 24 points. Like, let's have some urgency here. Yeah. And they just methodically did it, almost forced their way down the field with these slants. If Texas gets up big, I'm not sure they're going to be able to have, success doing that against this tight coverage.
James says, what do you guys think is the biggest trap game left on the schedule? Underrating Vandy/Bama hangover. Kentucky starting to put it together. Arkansas hates us, and that game is on the road. Trap game, I think we've all said Kentucky is right now, because you can't say your rival is a trap game. It's your rival. Mm-hmm. It's Arkansas and A&M. But it's because Kentucky's like in between that. It's perfectly placed trap game. Perfectly placed trap.
I agree.
Yeah. Our CB says, Rod, thoughts on Danny Stutzman's piece and chain? He had an upside down Longhorn as the piece on his chain. I like it. I like Petty. I'm glad that Petty is back in the Texas OU game.
Love it.
Talking a lot of trash. It's entertaining. When they win, they go do the same thing to Texas. I got no problem with it.
Rod, I was playing a game up in the press box with a couple folks I was sitting with. Basically, we would spend, basically $1. When Anthony Hill would make a big play, we would say, here's the $1, because we were sitting there waiting for the personal flag taunting penalty to come out on Anthony Hill, because he was, I swear, he was toying the line. Was he really? He was that close a number of plays. Right? We would look at each other and say, "Ooh, is it coming? Is it coming?" And to his credit, he never got it. But my goodness, I thought he was close to a few personal fouls.
Hey, they were playing with an edge, man. This group talks a lot of trash. And I kind of like it. They kind of remind me that 05 was like, 05 was a trash talking group, man, with Stutter and VY in that group. Dean says, does Coach pay you for that intro? No, he does not. But I revere and respect coaches. I've always have. I think coaches changed my life. So I know what coaches do for young men. So I got a lot of respect for Coach Shipley. We've only given up 3 touchdowns all year, but I won't be surprised if Georgia scores 3 touchdowns. How do coaches prepare our players for that mentally? That's a great question. I mean, they haven't given up. Will it affect them the first time a team marches down the field and actually scores 2 or 3 touchdowns on Texas in a game? Do you think it'll have a negative effect on them?
I don't think. First of all, I don't think the staff has talked to the players about that stuff. They're not talking about how we've only given up 3 touchdowns, in 6 games. I mean, I'm sure they're aware of it, but the bottom line is
execute.
Sark tells the team, especially when you're playing somebody like Georgia, they're going to get some plays.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're going to have some big plays. They're going to have success. Obviously, the key is how we respond to it. And
Yep.
I love the character of this team. I love the personality of this team. We keep seeing different levels of it come out, different layers peeling back, and you see new people stepping in, like we were talking about Silas Bolden, very Jay Witt-like, and you're just starting to see this culture repeat itself. And things are going to happen. Georgia's going to make some plays. They're not the blue blood they are, and has the most success in the last 4 years in any team in the country. They're going to make some plays. They will make some plays. So,
like Mac would always say, they're on scholarship too.
Yep.
They're on scholarship too. Got to make a great play. Let's thank South Point before we get out of here. Sorry, go ahead, CJ. You have something to say?
I was going to say they put their pants on just like you.
That was also, I've heard that from Mac too. He threw that one out there a couple of times. Let's thank our good friends at South Point Dodge. Hey, Texas football fans, remember you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point over at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including an amazing selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. You can head on over there, and right now you can check out their amazing deals, including right now an amazing deal with over 50 Ram 2500s, all marked down with huge savings over at South Point Dodge. Remember, that's your one-stop shop. You can score big today at South Point Dodge. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your automotive everything. Check them out at southpointdodge.com, and we appreciate them sponsoring the Winning Drive. Bing says, listen to the OU podcast. And the question was there anything you saw that OU can build upon? Their answer, nothing. Yeah, left them with nothing. Last one, I think this is actually great to end on. MJF says, when my son was born, my brother in Little Rock sent a Razorback baby onesie as a gift. I sent him back a photo of me using it to check my truck's oil. Well
That's great.
Thank you, MJF. I like that. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to South Point Dodge. Thank you very much to our friends over at Duck Camp. Thank you to Hardcore Roofing and to Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee for joining us. Thank you also to Flat Creek Estate Winery. Matthew behind the scenes. Appreciate everything you do, Matthew. You are the real MVP. Thank you, CJ. I know you're out on the road there, man, but you're working as hard as anybody I know. Coach, all the wisdom and the nuggets. We really appreciate those. We're smarter for it. Thank you guys out there for listening and for watching. Can't thank you enough for helping us build this community. Thanks for all the super chats as well. Remember, Coffee and Football at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and you'll have the live stream at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Until next time, thank you guys, and Hook 'em Horns.